Lisa Harper walked into the biggest room she had ever seen. The walls curved up high above her head, and seats filled every inch of space. Hundreds of alien beings sat in those seats, looking down at her like she was some kind of bug they wanted to step on. She wore her best uniform, the dark blue one with all her ribbons lined up perfectly on her chest. Her brown hair was pulled back tight, and her gray eyes looked straight ahead. She did not let any emotion show on her face, even though her heart was beating fast. The center of the room had a big hologram floating in the air. It showed her picture and her service record. Lisa could see the aliens reading it, and she could tell they were not impressed. Some of them were making sounds that she guessed were their way of laughing. Admiral Thorne stood next to her. He was an older man with white hair and deep lines on his face. He had fought in 3 wars and earned the respect of everyone in Earth's military. Today, he looked nervous. The first alien to speak had 4 arms and looked like a giant bug. His name was Commander Vextai, and he came from a race that had been fighting wars in space for thousands of years. When he talked, a machine changed his clicking sounds into words that Lisa could understand. "This is what Earth sends us?" Commander Vextai said, and all 4 of his arms pointed at Lisa. A human woman who is barely 30 years old? She has never commanded a big fleet. She has never fought in a real war. The Earth government must think this is some kind of joke. A lizard-like alien with green scales and yellow eyes spoke next. Her voice came out as a long hiss, but the machine made it sound like normal words. I looked at Captain Harper's record. She spent most of her time doing patrol duty in empty space. That is not the kind of experience we need for a war leader. Lisa kept her face blank, but inside she felt angry. These aliens had never met her before today, but they had already decided she was not good enough. They looked at her like she was a child playing. Dressed up in a soldier's uniform, General Korath stepped forward from the human section. He was from Mars, where humans had built colonies after leaving Earth. Mars had broken away from Earth's government 50 years ago, and now they were like a separate country. Korath was tall and thin, the way most Mars-born humans looked after growing up in low gravity. "I have studied Captain Harper's file very carefully," General Korath said. "She went to the Space Academy and got decent grades. She graduated in the middle of her class. She has been in the military for 8 years, but she has never done anything special. No big victories, no brilliant plans, just ordinary work. More." Aliens started talking at the same time. The room filled with clicking, hissing, and other strange sounds. The translation machines could not keep up with everyone talking at once, so it sounded like chaos. Lisa stood perfectly still through all of it. She had expected this. When Earth asked to put her in charge of the biggest space fleet in galactic history, she knew the other species would not like it. Humans were new to space compared to these aliens. Most of the species in the room had been traveling between stars for thousands of years, before humans even learned to make fire. A being made of living crystal chimed like a bell when she spoke. Dr. Korath came from a species that lived for thousands of years and thought very slowly about everything. Perhaps the humans could give us someone with more experience. "We have heard about Admiral Rodriguez, who saved the Titan colonies from pirates." "Rodriguez is dead," Admiral Thorne said, and his voice was hard. "The Void Syndicate killed him when they attacked the Centauri system. Captain Harper is our choice, and we will not change our minds. The Void Syndicate was the reason everyone was here today. They were something new and terrible that had appeared in the galaxy 6 months ago. Nobody knew what they were or where they came from. They did not just conquer planets like normal invaders. They made entire star systems disappear, sucking up all the energy and leaving nothing behind but empty space. 4 solar systems had already been destroyed completely. Billions of people were dead. The Void Syndicate was moving toward the heart of the galaxy, where all the major civilizations lived. If they were not stopped soon, everyone would die. The mockery continued for another hour. Lisa listened to every insult and every joke. The aliens said she was too young, too inexperienced, too human. They said Earth was being foolish or naive. Some suggested that humans should not be allowed to participate in the joint fleet at all. Through it all, Lisa did not move. She did not speak. She just stood there and took it. Her gray eyes stayed focused on a point somewhere beyond all the aliens, like she was looking at something far away that they could not see. The president of the Galactic Council finally called for quiet. The president was from the Ethereal Collective, a species so old and advanced that they were more like living energy than physical beings. The president's form kept changing, sometimes looking solid and sometimes looking like colored smoke. The human delegation has given us their choice for fleet commander, the president said in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. We must either accept Captain Harper or tell the humans they cannot join the joint fleet. Then maybe we should reject them, Commander Vextai said. His forearms waved in the air. We cannot let our mission fail because of inexperience. That was when Lisa finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, but it carried clearly through the huge room. With respect, Commander Vextai, you have not seen my complete record. The lizard alien's yellow eyes glowed brighter. We have your file right. Here, patrol duty, stopping small pirate groups, escorting cargo ships. Nothing that qualifies you to lead 300 warships against the Void Syndicate. That is the public record, Lisa said calmly. The version that everyone can see. Admiral Thorne, would you show them the real one? Admiral Thorne hesitated. Lisa could see him thinking about all the rules and regulations that said this information had to stay secret. But after a moment, he nodded and touched the controls of the hologram system. What you are about to see is classified at the highest possible level, Admiral Thorne said. We are only sharing this because the Void Syndicate threatens everyone. In the galaxy, our normal security rules do not matter anymore. The hologram changed. Lisa's simple service record disappeared, replaced by something new. At the top, in big red letters, were the words, Operation Ghostlight, Top Secret, Authorized Personnel Only. The room became very quiet. Every alien stopped talking and looked at the new display. Lisa watched their faces change as they began to understand that maybe, just maybe, they had made a mistake about her. The hologram showed a map of the galaxy's edge, where most civilized species never went. It was a dark and dangerous place, full of empty space between the spiral arms of stars. Red dots marked dozens of locations scattered across this wasteland. Each dot meant trouble. Admiral Thorne's voice changed as he began to explain. He sounded more serious now, more respectful when he talked about Lisa. For the past 8 years, Captain Harper has been running Operation Ghostlight. What the public thinks was simple patrol duty was actually the most dangerous mission in our military. The hologram zoomed in on one of the red dots. The Black Star Cartel. They were a group of human criminals, alien outlaws, and rogue robots who had been attacking our trade ships for over 10 years. They used stolen warships and hid in the empty space where no government could find them. Lisa's younger face appeared on the display. She was standing on the bridge of a small, battle-damaged ship. Scorch marks and dents covered the walls behind. Captain Harper was given command of Task Force Wraith. She had 3 small warships, 2 destroyers, and 1 supply ship. Her job was to find the Black Star Cartel and destroy them completely. Commander Vext's 4 arms stopped moving. His bug-like eyes focused on the display. Wait, Black Star was destroyed 6 years ago. Our intelligence reports said they fell apart because of fighting among themselves. That was a lie we told. To protect our methods, Admiral Thorne replied. The truth is that Captain Harper spent 18 months learning everything about how they operated. She studied their patterns, found their secret bases, and identified everyone who helped them. Then she struck, New pictures appeared on the hologram. Burning ships floated in space. Destroyed space stations leaked air and fire into the void. Rows of captured criminals sat in prison cells. In less than 3 weeks, Task Force Wraith eliminated the entire Black Star cartel. 137 ships destroyed or captured. Over 2,000 criminals arrested. The most successful anti-piracy operation in galactic history. Dr. Korth's crystal body pulsed with different colors, which meant she was thinking hard. That is impressive work. But destroying one group of criminals does not make someone ready to command a fleet against the Void Syndicate. The hologram changed again, showing more red dots on the map. The Crimson Tide Syndicate, the Reaper Collective, the Iron Wolves, the Void Hunters. Each name came with pictures of battles and lists of numbers. Over 8 years, Captain Harper has destroyed 17 major criminal organizations and 43 smaller pirate groups. Her task force has eliminated over 800 enemy ships. The room fell completely silent. Even the aliens who had been making the most noise stopped talking. These numbers were huge. Most military commanders never fought in battles this big during their entire careers. But here is the most important part, Admiral Thorne continued. She did all of this with very few losses. In 8 years of constant fighting, Task Force Wraith lost only 11 ships and fewer than 300 people. No other commander in modern history has achieved such results with so few casualties. Commander Vex Tai leaned forward in his seat. How is that possible? Even with better technology, those numbers seem impossible. Lisa stepped forward to answer the question herself. The Outer Rim is not like civilized space. Out there are no rules, no backup, no help coming if you get in trouble. You either win or you die. The criminal groups I fought did not use normal military tactics. They used fear. They hid behind innocent people. They used weapons that break every law of war. The hologram showed footage from some of her battles. These were not the clean fleet fights that military schools taught. These were brutal, messy battles in asteroid fields, around dying stars, and in places where gravity went crazy. Ships exploded in ways that made no sense. Weapons fired that seemed to bend the laws of physics. I have fought enemies who could control people's minds. I have battled robots that could take over our computer systems while we were fighting them. I have faced weapons that turned our own missiles around and sent them back at us. Lisa's voice stayed calm, but her eyes grew hard as she remembered. Every battle required perfect planning. One mistake, one wrong guess, and my entire fleet could disappear without anyone ever knowing what happened to us. She pointed to the tactical displays showing her victories. I had to learn to think like a criminal. I had to predict tactics that no military school teaches. I had to win fights where the enemy had every advantage except one thing. What thing? The lizard alien asked. Humans do not know when to give up, Lisa said simply. The hologram showed her current command. It was not the small group of ships from her public record. Instead, it displayed a fleet of 27 warships, each one marked with battle scars and special modifications. These ships looked like they had been fighting constantly for years, which they had. Task Force Wraith is the most experienced combat unit in the galaxy today, Admiral Thorne explained. Captain Harper has personally commanded more space battles than any officer of her rank in any of our militaries. While other commanders studied theory in classrooms, she was out there fighting real enemies in real battles. The aliens in the Great Chamber looked at each other with new expressions. The mockery was gone, replaced by surprise and growing respect. They had expected to dismiss an inexperienced human officer. Instead, they were looking at a combat veteran whose experience made their own commanders look like beginners. But Lisa could see questions in their eyes. Fighting criminals was one thing. The Void Syndicate was something completely different. General Korth from Mars spoke up. Your record is certainly more impressive than we were told. But the Void Syndicate is not like the pirates and criminals you have fought. They are something beyond our understanding. Every enemy seems impossible until you figure out how they work, Lisa replied. I have fought pirates who could make their ships disappear and reappear inside our formations. I have battled machines that could predict our moves before we made them. I have faced weapons that could make our own crew turn against us. She moved to the tactical display and began pointing to specific information. The Syndicate's attacks are not random. Look at the systems they have destroyed. All of them were major energy producers. Solar power stations, fusion plants, zero-point energy collectors. They are not just eating everything they find. They are specifically hunting for high energy targets. The delegates leaned forward, interested despite their remaining doubts. And their ability to drain power from our ships, Lisa continued. That tells us they need external energy to maintain their abilities. They are not some mysterious force beyond understanding. They are a highly advanced species or artificial intelligence that has become dependent on consuming energy. Admiral Thorne nodded with approval. This is exactly why we chose Captain Harper. She has a gift for finding the weakness in enemies that seem unbeatable. The chamber erupted in new discussions as the aliens processed this information. Lisa. Harper was not the simple patrol officer they had expected. She was a battle-tested commander who had spent 8 years fighting impossible enemies and winning every time. But the biggest test was still ahead of her. The president of the Galactic Council changed from smoke-like form into something more solid. Their ancient voice carried the weight of thousands of years of experience. Your hidden record is impressive, Captain Harper. But the Void Syndicate is not just another group of pirates and criminals. They are something far worse than anything you have faced. The big hologram in the center of the room changed to show recent intelligence reports. Pictures appeared of star systems that had been attacked by the Void Syndicate. But these were not normal battle scenes with destroyed ships and broken planets. These systems looked like someone had sucked all the life out of them, leaving behind only darkness and twisted metal. The Void Syndicate does not just conquer like normal enemies, the president continued. They consume everything. They feed on the energy of entire civilizations and leave nothing behind but empty space. They have already devoured the Kepler system, the Proxima colonies, and the Vega trading posts. Billions of living beings simply vanished without a trace. General Korath from Mars stepped forward. His face looked grim and worried. We have sent 17 scout fleets to investigate how the Syndicate operates. All of them disappeared. Not destroyed in battle, just gone. No wreckage, no distress signals, no evidence they ever existed. Lisa studied the data on the display, her military mind automatically looking for patterns and weaknesses. What do we know about their ships and weapons? That is the problem, Doctor. Korath said, her crystal body pulsing with worried colors. We know almost nothing useful. The few ships that escaped encounters with the Syndicate report vessels that seem to eat energy weapons instead of being damaged by them. They move without any visible engines or propulsion. They can somehow drain the power from other ships from a distance. Commander Vextai waved all 4 of his arms in frustration. This is exactly why we questioned your selection, Captain. Your experience is with normal criminals using stolen technology. The Void Syndicate appears to operate beyond our understanding of how the universe works. Every enemy seems impossible until you figure out how they actually work, Lisa replied calmly. I have fought pirates who use technology that let them walk through solid walls and appear inside our ships. I have battled artificial intelligences that could take control of our computers while we were shooting at them. I have faced weapons that could turn our own missiles around and send them back at us. She moved closer to the tactical display and began touching the controls to highlight specific pieces of information. The Syndicate's expansion pattern is not random or chaotic. Look carefully at the systems they have attacked. All of them were major energy producers. Solar collection arrays, fusion power plants, zero-point energy stations. They are not just consuming everything they find randomly. They are specifically targeting and hunting for high-energy sources. The assembled delegates leaned forward in their seats, becoming interested despite their continuing doubts about her abilities. And their ship behavior, Lisa continued, pointing to more data, the way they can drain power from other vessels at long range. That strongly suggests they need external energy sources to maintain their special capabilities. They are not some mysterious force that operates beyond the laws of physics. They are a highly advanced species or artificial intelligence that has become completely dependent on consuming massive amounts of energy. Admiral Thorne nodded with clear approval. This is exactly the kind of analysis that made us choose Captain Harper for this mission. She has a special gift for finding the hidden weakness in enemies that seem completely invincible. But the lizard-like Saurian delegate was not convinced yet. Her yellow eyes glowed brighter with skepticism. Analysis and understanding are one thing. Actually fighting them is completely different. Even if you understand their basic nature, how do you propose to fight an enemy that can drain all the power from your ships before you can even shoot at them? Lisa smiled for the first time since entering the great chamber. It was not a happy smile, but the cold smile of a predator who had just figured out how to catch her prey. The same way I have always fought enemies with superior technology and abilities. I do not fight them using their rules and their advantages. The display changed to show a new tactical plan that Lisa had been working on. We do not engage them in traditional fleet battles where they have all the advantages. Instead, we use their greatest strengths against them. If they need massive amounts of energy to survive and operate, then we give them so much energy that they cannot process it all at once. She highlighted several points on the star chart, showing the Syndicate's predicted path of expansion. We evacuate all the high-energy systems that lie in their path, but we do not just abandon them empty. We turn them into traps. Solar collection arrays rigged to overload and explode. Fusion plants programmed to go critical and release all their energy at once. Zero-point stations modified to create massive feedback loops that release incredible amounts of power. The chamber erupted with concerned voices from all the different species. Several aliens began talking at the same time in their various languages. That plan is extremely dangerous, Dr. Korth observed, her crystal form pulsing with alarm. The energy releases you are describing could affect and damage entire star systems. Yes, Lisa agreed without hesitation. But the Void Syndicate has already demonstrated that they can safely consume normal amounts of energy from any source. The real question is whether they can handle consuming the equivalent of an entire star's worth of energy released in just a few seconds. Commander Vextai's mandibles clicked rapidly, which was a sign of nervous thinking in his species. And what if they can handle that much energy? What if your plan fails? Then we learn something very important about their true capabilities and limitations, and we immediately adapt our strategy based on that new information. But if they cannot handle it, Lisa's expression became hard and determined. Then we have just turned their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. The president of the Ethereal Collective pulsed with deep consideration. Your plan has merit, Captain, but it requires perfect coordination of fleets from multiple species, precise timing down to the second, and the willingness to sacrifice entire star systems to stop them. Are you truly prepared to take responsibility for that level of destruction? I have been preparing for exactly this kind of responsibility my entire military career, Lisa replied firmly. Every battle I fought in the outer dark taught me something important about fighting against impossible odds. Every victory I achieved came from finding a solution that my enemies could not anticipate or prepare for. She turned to address the full assembly of alien delegates. You are absolutely right to be skeptical of me. My public record looks completely unremarkable. But my actual record is 8 years of continuous victories against enemies who should have been impossible to defeat using normal tactics. The Void Syndicate is just another impossible enemy that needs to be solved." The delegates exchanged glances and began communicating with each other through various technological devices and telepathic connections. Private conversations passed between the different species as they debated her appointment. Finally, after several minutes of discussion, the President spoke again. "Very well, Captain Harper. The Galactic Council will vote on your appointment to command the Joint Fleet. But first, we have one final test that you must pass." The vote was closer than Lisa had hoped for. 7 species voted in favor of her command, 4 voted against, and 1 abstained from voting entirely. But it was enough to give her the position. She now commanded the largest multinational fleet in the history of the galaxy, and she had less than 6 weeks to prepare for the Void Syndicate's next predicted attack. The test came much sooner than anyone expected. Lisa stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, her new flagship. It was a massive dreadnought that Earth's Defense Command had built specifically for this mission. The ship was 3 times larger than anything she had ever commanded before. Around her in space, the combined fleet of 317 vessels from 12 different species held their positions at the edge of the Altair system. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison, her human tactical officer, "the Syndicate fleet has just entered the outer edge of the system. Our sensors are counting 47 vessels of unknown design and configuration." The main display screen showed the approaching enemy ships. The Void Syndicate vessels were unlike anything in any galactic database. They were sleek and dark, seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it like normal ships. They moved through space with an unnatural smoothness, as if they were swimming through water instead of flying through the vacuum of space. "All ships maintain formation Epsilon 7, Lisa ordered through the communication system. "Do not engage the enemy until I give the direct command." The alien commanders on the various ships were clearly nervous about waiting. Commander vexed eyes. Voice crackled over the comm system from his ship. "Captain Harper, the enemy vessels are approaching our outer defensive perimeter. Should we not begin our attack immediately?" "Negative. All ships hold your current positions." The Syndicate ships continued their steady approach toward the fleet, and as they drew closer, the predicted energy drain effect began to happen exactly as intelligence reports had described. Several of the smaller vessels in the multinational fleet started reporting power fluctuations, then complete system failures. "Captain," Morrison reported with growing concern, "we are losing ships to the energy drain. The Corellian frigates are going completely dark. The Martian destroyers are showing critical power loss across all systems." "All ships, execute maneuver Lazarus immediately," Lisa commanded. What happened next defied every rule and convention of space warfare that had been developed over thousands of years. Instead of retreating from the energy drain or trying to fight against it, the affected ships began dumping all their remaining power into their engines and deliberately ramming themselves into the nearest large asteroids and debris fields. Resulting explosions were massive and spectacular, but they served a very specific purpose. They created a thick screen of ionized particles and electromagnetic interference between the two opposing fleets. "Now," Lisa ordered with perfect timing, "all ships, activate Project Lighthouse." Hidden throughout the asteroid field were special devices that had been secretly deployed by her engineers over the past 3 weeks. These were not weapons in any traditional sense, but rather the exact opposite. They were massive energy broadcasters that had been built into carefully hollowed-out asteroids, each one capable of generating and projecting the energy output equivalent to a small star. The Lighthouse array activated simultaneously across the entire battlefield, flooding the space. Between the two fleets with more concentrated raw energy than had ever been deliberately created in such a small area of space. The Void Syndicate ships, which had been moving forward confidently to consume the disabled and helpless vessels, suddenly found themselves trapped in the middle of an artificial energy storm that was far beyond their ability to safely process. Phase 2, Lisa announced calmly. All remaining ships, Formation Delta 9. Target any syndicate vessels that are attempting to retreat from the energy field. The trap was absolutely perfect in its execution. The syndicate ships that moved deeper into the concentrated energy field began to show clear signs of dangerous overload. Their dark hulls began to glow with absorbed energy and crack from the pressure, then explode completely as they failed to contain the massive power influx. Those enemy ships that tried to retreat and escape found themselves facing the combined firepower of all the surviving fleet vessels, which had been positioned specifically to cover every possible escape route. But Lisa's greatest stroke of tactical genius was yet to come. "Captain," Morrison reported with excitement, "we are detecting massive energy signatures from the syndicate ships that are still intact and functional. They appear to be trying to discharge their dangerous overload by firing their weapons at our fleet." "Perfect," Lisa replied with satisfaction. "All ships, activate reflector shields and focus all reflected energy on the syndicate flagship." The reflector shields were another technological innovation that had been developed specifically for this battle. Instead of trying to absorb or deflect the syndicate's energy weapons using traditional methods, the shields bounced and redirected the energy between different ships in the fleet, creating a complex feedback loop that concentrated and focused all the discharged energy on a single predetermined target, the syndicate flagship. Already struggling desperately with dangerous energy overload from the lighthouse array, suddenly found itself being targeted by the amplified and concentrated fire from its own weapons. The energy feedback had been multiplied many times over by the coordinated actions of the human fleet. The result was absolutely catastrophic for the enemy. The flagship simply ceased to exist, completely consumed and destroyed by the very energy it had tried to use as a weapon against its opponents. The remaining syndicate vessels, seeing their command ship destroyed and their primary energy drain, tactics turned completely against them, attempted to flee the battlefield entirely. But Lisa had anticipated and planned for this possibility as well. "All ships, activate the lighthouse array at maximum possible power output. Flood the entire star system with energy." The space around the Altair system became a blazing sea of pure, raw energy. The syndicate ships, completely unable to process the massive and continuous influx of power being directed at them, began to overload and explode one by one in spectacular fashion. Within just a few minutes, the entire enemy fleet had been utterly destroyed, not by superior firepower or advanced weapons, but by the very strength and ability they had always relied upon to defeat their opponents. As the artificial energy storm gradually subsided and space returned to normal, the surviving ships of the multinational fleet found themselves alone among the floating debris of their completely defeated enemies. "Casualty report," Lisa requested. 41 ships lost, mostly from the initial energy drain effect," Morrison replied. "But we have captured significant debris and technology from the syndicate fleet. Intelligence estimates indicate that we have learned more about their technology and capabilities in this single battle than in all previous encounters combined." The communication system filled with congratulations and praise from the alien commanders throughout the fleet, but Lisa was already thinking ahead to the next challenge. "This was just their advanced scouting force," she announced to the entire fleet. "The real test will come when we face their main fleet with full numbers. But now we know for certain that they can be beaten." Commander Veste's voice carried a tone of deep respect that had not been there at the beginning. "Captain Harper, I owe you a sincere apology. Your tactics were completely unprecedented and brilliant." "They were necessary," Lisa replied simply. "And this is just the beginning of our campaign. The Void Syndicate has been consuming entire civilizations because no one ever thought to turn their greatest strength against them. But that is what humans do best in any situation. We find a way to win when everyone else thinks we should lose. As the victorious fleet began the long journey back to Nexus Prime, Lisa stood alone on the bridge of the Defiance, looking out through the viewports at the vast field of stars. The galaxy was enormous and full of threats and challenges that seemed impossible to overcome. But she had learned something very important during her years, fighting criminals and pirates in the outer dark. There was no such thing as a truly impossible enemy, only enemies that no one had figured out how to beat yet. The Void Syndicate had laughed at humanity's choice of commander, just as the Galactic Council had initially laughed at her unremarkable public record. But now they knew the truth that Lisa had always understood. Sometimes the most dangerous opponents are the ones who do not look dangerous at all until it is too late. The war against the Void Syndicate was far from over, but for the first time since this terrible enemy had appeared in the galaxy, all the civilized species had real hope for survival. And at the center of that hope stood a quiet human captain who had spent her entire career proving that the word impossible was just another way of saying not yet solved. The laughter had finally stopped. The real fight was about to begin.